had bees about 20 years now. And prior to having bees, as a child, I was followed by a swarm of bees and I was totally terrified. So I couldn't get rid of the phobia, so I went and I started reading about them. And then I fell in love with them. I realised how cool they are for the planet, how intelligent they are. I kind of like to get the suit on just before I go out. It keeps me calmer once I know I'm sting-proof. These cotton suits are really, really good because the sting won't penetrate right through. And bees generally, if they do try and sting you, the stinger won't get caught in the suit, so the bee doesn't die. So we have the bees over past the hens. Kind of a happy old environment in there. And so we're just kind of setting up now, make sure we have everything in place. There's the hive tool. There's a scraper to scrape in through the queen excluder in case there's any wax in there that needs to be scraped off. Gives the bees better access up to the honey collecting box. Leaving out. So basically the idea of the smoker, when we light up the smoker and we smoke across the hive before we open it up, the bees, they feel that it's like a forest fire. So they need to get out of there. So they need to gorge food. So if they're going to set up nests somewhere else, they need to gorge food. So they go in and a lot of them eat as much as they can for the journey. And then when you open up the hive, they're looking at you, but they're too full to sting. So they're just walking around. They're too full to jump up and sting you. And some people call it honey drunk. We're lighting up here now. I'm using a bit of newspaper, the inside of a toilet roll, and some straw and grass. It's important to kind of have it smoking at all times while you're over there, just in case the bees do need calming. But on a day like today now, they seem calm enough anyway. There's a lot of sunlight out there and the numbers are big and we're right in the Honeyflow. So basically they're going to be so busy coming and going that they're not going to take too much notice of us anyway. So this will pacify them a bit. I'm not spraying directly in, I'm spraying across the hive because I just want the smoke to be nice and cool by the time it gets into the bees. So now we're smoking down just to make sure that the bees in the honey collecting part are calm. So we're going to see what state these frames are in. You can see on the outside of the frames there's a browny substance, and that's propolis. The bees use that to seal up the hive, and also they secured the frames down as well. So let's see what's coming out here now. Sometimes they're very tight and they're jammed in. Maybe not. Let's see how it goes. And you can see in the centre, see the black, the bees start to clean those out first, and they'll start to pop in some honey in towards the centre, and then they're going to draw it out. Within the next 2 weeks that frame should be completely full of honey. So we're lifting off the honey box to go straight down to the brood chamber where the queen is. That metal grid is called a queen excluder. The queen can't walk up through it, but the worker bees can. Generally between the end of June and the first 2 weeks in July is the honey flow. And in the honey flow, you've got your peak number of bees in the hive. You've got a peak number of blossoms out there. Clover is the big one here. And within 3 weeks, if you've got 50 to 60,000 bees in your hive, they can bring in 45 pounds of honey. As we look here in the centre, you can see the sealed over stuff there across the top. That's pure honey. That's very dark honey, very likely a heather honey. There again, you can see all the white wax. That's all sealed honey, and there's very little brood on this one as well. The centre of the frame is where the queen would generally lay, and when you look at that, you can see a darker colour of pollen, and outside them where they collect the honey, on the outer circle, it's generally white wax, and inside there is the honey that they collect. That's the way they would work it in the wild. The bees are moving up and down. The width between the frames is a 2 bee space. The bees can move back to back, just barely touching each other, but they don't disrupt each other. These are the native Irish bee, the black Irish bee, and they work much better here than other bees. With this again, this is just all pure honey. So the queen is obviously laying in the centre frames. And they're very, very calm today because the honey flows on. So I think we'll be hitting some brood very shortly. So basically, I'd examine the bees in the summertime about once every 6 days, and there's a reason for that. At that point in time, you've got about 60,000 bees in your hive if the hive is good, and you want to keep the workforce there. And the only reason that the workforce would leave is if a new queen would emerge and the old queen would swarm. When we open up the hive, if we see a developing queen, we either take out the cell so the queen doesn't develop, or we can take out the frame with some bees and that cell and move it into a new box. In the centre there now, there's those cells have got eggs in them. The queen is just laid in there, so basically what they're doing, they're putting pollen in on top of those eggs and they'll develop into workers. When the queen is not well or not functioning properly, the worker bees decide to get rid of her. They will go and put royal jelly on an egg and create a new queen, and this can cause bees to swarm. Also, we look for a thing called the varroa mite. It's a mite that sort of came into the country in 1983. It was brought in from Germany, and it sort of went all over the country. And there isn't an area in the country that isn't free of this. So in the past, there's been a thing called colony collapse disorder. And basically with colony collapse disorder, people have gone out, beekeepers have gone out and looked at their hives, and lo and behold, they might find there are no bees, where there was maybe 50,000 bees 2 days before, and it's because the bees have been infested by this mite, and they've all flown away from the hive so that they don't contaminate the rest, but so many of them are sick that there are no bees left. The queen obviously had stopped laying here for a period, just to allow honey to be saved for themselves rather than from emerging brood. So on that frame alone now there's about maybe 4,000 bees. Now there, those sealed pieces there, as worker brood that's sealed in there. In about 3 days' time there'll be new bees emerging from that, and all there as well, that's all worker brood. They're very neatly compact cells. So it's easier sometimes to gently puff at the bees to get them to move off. We're also keeping a quick eye out for the queen if we can spot her. We have her marked in yellow. There's a yellow dot on her thorax. So if we get a quick glimpse of her, we'll know everything's okay. But there are no signs of any new queens emerging, so they seem comfortable and happy in here. And in the centre of this one as well, there's lots of brood, and there's no sign of a queen cell, so things are going really well in here. There's ample bees. There's enough bees coming along to keep the hive continuing successfully, and they're bringing in honey big time. In about another week there will be about 30 to 40 pounds collected in the top box. So on the outside again there's honey, and they leave the honey there for a day or two, and then it gets sealed up after that point. The bees will also fan the honey when it's in the cell to try and get any excess moisture out of it. Each year you may have lots of apple blossom one year, the next year you may not. It all depends on the weather. Clover one year may be really abundant, another year not so much. But so you just take what you get. But this year was the clover year, and big yields all around Wexford. So even grass that you pick off the ground burns really well if you have a bit of dry weather. But what I'm doing now, I'm just closing it off, trying to dampen out the smoke so that I don't put the house on fire when I bring the smoker home. This time I took the queen excluder with me. I'm going to allow the queen up for a few days to lay in some empty cells above. And I'm going to move those frames down and take honey frames from the bottom and move them up top. So in 6 days' time I will have had most of the honey frames will be on top, and the queen will have loads of space to lay, because she can lay up to 1,500 eggs a day, and if she's calm and busy, the bees are calm as well. So I think we'll have a good year.
Encourage the big keepers, help what they're working at. Diversify your activities. If we don't, then that needs that. Gotta save the bees, down on their knees. Gotta save the bees, crippled by disease. Gotta save the bees, population squeeze. Gotta save the bees, gotta save the bees. Gotta save the bees, gotta save the bees. Gotta save the bees. Gotta save the bees.